all over Africa, we are all sitting on a keg of gunpowder. If no adequate attention is paid to the needs of the youth in Africa, the autumn will turn to winter.
And it'll be ugly.
It will be very ugly for all of us.
Nigeria's ex-president Obasanjo, hopefully I said that right, had a prophecy of African winter, and he thinks we're on the verge of it coming to pass. I've shrunk the interview down, sped it up in lieu of your valuable time. So please like, subscribe. Your comments are read and welcomed as well as appreciated and needed for the unity of us all. So grab a drink. Let's dive in.
And it's good to see you, Baba. Welcome back to Kenya.
Yeah.
Look, you've seen the Gen Z wave sweeping across the continent. You've seen what it's done in Kenya. Can you see it? Is it happening across the continent?
Hold on. We all know it's not only happening across the continent, but across the 7 seas and spread throughout the world. We're all watching. Go Africa, you got this.
You've seen what it's done in Kenya. Can you see it? Is it happening across the continent?
Well, some of us have sounded warning about this. And all over Africa, we are all sitting on a keg of gunpowder because the youth, and there's virtually no exception where the youth are not angry. They are unemployed, they are unempowered, and they see nothing other than hopelessness. And in a situation like that, what you have from frustrated youth is anger. And when they have no hope, and if you really want to kill any human being, take hope out of his life.
Yeah.
And that is what is happening.
And they have nothing to lose.
And they have, well, if you have nothing to gain, you are jobless, you are not empowered, you are in poverty, and then you see your leaders, some of them in obscene affluence. Then what do you do? You are a human being, and the resources of your country is provided for that country by God for the benefit of all the citizens of that country.
Absolutely. I remember in 2011 when the Arab Spring was sweeping across North Africa, and then you came to Kenya a couple of years later, and we were talking about that, and then you coined a phrase that I remember all to this day. You said, from the Arab Spring, there'll be an African winter. Is this what's happening?
It's the beginning, and if no adequate attention is paid to the needs of the youth in Africa, the autumn will turn to winter.
And it'll be ugly.
It will be very ugly for all of us.
Tell me something, Mr. President. You seem to be like the peacemaker on the continent. Whenever there's a conflict, you show up. What is it about this democracy or multipartyism that we don't get?
I believe that, of course, when the colonial powers were leaving Africa as they had to leave, they gave us or left us with what they know best: Western liberal democracy. My belief is that we have to rethink Western liberal democracy because it doesn't seem to be working for us. You see, you have as part of Western liberal democracy what they call loyal opposition. I have looked into most African languages. Opposition is enemy. And what do you do with enemy? You cannot talk of a loyal enemy. Now, that is what they had because their liberal democracy emanated from monarchy. And of course, you can be loyal to monarchy. But in our own case, opposition is enemy. And what you do is crush your enemy. And so we have to rethink communality, consensus. These are things that we understand and we practice in traditional African society.
But Mr. President, in your country, in Nigeria, a country of more than 200 million people, democracy seems to be working. You have like two major parties. You have People's Democratic Party, PDP, and you have Alliance for Democracy, AD. And they keep switching back and forth, back and forth. But here in Kenya, we have briefcase parties. They change every 5 years.
Even Nigeria, I don't think you got it right, with all due respect. For democracy, if what you are talking about of democracy is just election and going to vote every 4 years or every 5 years, to me that is not democracy. That is just one symbol of democracy.
So glad to hear that right there. Right there. It was worth my time watching this. Voting in itself is not democracy. It's just one symbol of democracy, because if that was democracy, then elections would be all you need to have a democracy. And with the world now calling foul or for rigged elections like in Brazil, United States, France, Russia, Kenya, Nigeria, and all over the world, there is a greater purpose for democracy. It's supposed to be a representation of all the people. Do something, right? and as we've seen in Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, that an established and well thought out revolution yields better fruit than a corrupt democracy, for sure. What say you? Let me know down below in the comments, please. And if you haven't watched the video that I put out about a year or so ago, why was Stacey Abrams, a well-known Biden administration puppet, along with some other American puppets, overseeing the election in Nigeria for Tinubu? Well, I would answer that right now, but I might be labeled a conspiracy theorist, saying that Tinubu is the biggest puppet in all of Africa. So I'll refrain. But again, I loved that outlook that President Obasanjo, let me know if I said that right, has. I love the outlook that he's got on voting in itself. It's not a democracy. It's just a symbol of it. We need to hear more of that.
For democracy, if what you are talking about of democracy is just election and going to vote every 4 years or every 5 years, to me that is not democracy. That is just one symbol of democracy. For me, democracy must be able to deliver what I call the dividend of democracy. And it does appear that in Africa, the dividend of democracy is not being delivered. So we have to then go back to the drawing board and say to ourselves, well, we are not getting what we should get, so what should we do about it? I call it, should we look at something? It's true, it will still be democratic, but should we look at something that has African content in it? In African context and African content.
What about the wave sweeping across your part of the continent, the Sahel, from Niger to Mali to Burkina Faso to Senegal? Look at the way coup d'etats in 2024. Does that make sense?
Well, change of government in a non-constitutional way is against AU. And nobody wants that. But what we should also look at is this. What are the causes? I always say, don't just look at symptoms. Look at the disease. What are the causes? And almost in all of these countries, almost all of them, there was jubilation in the street when the change of government, the non-constitutional way, comes about. And then I went to one of these countries. I spent 2 nights to try and really find out. And what I found was that these countries or these young people are not thinking of being in government for 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
And go back to barracks or retire.
Absolutely.
They are thinking of a generation.
For someone so gung-ho on the AU, he's on Ibrahim Traore's side. I find that to be a U-turn. I wonder if Gen Z in the last 2 years of the African Revolution is sinking in even to the elders of the generation in Africa. I think it is. And don't you find it also kind of interesting how Tinubu, Nana Akufo-Addo were charged by the West to condemn this military takeover in Burkina Faso and Nigeria, Mali. But now we see the West going over there, handing Traore validation papers and saying, good job, while their own African brothers and sisters next door are told to condemn them, and they do it. How does that make any sense? It doesn't. But it does draw us a picture of how the West can create strife and wars from within a country without themselves being targeted for the havoc and mayhem that they started to begin with. But those are just my thoughts. Tell me yours down below, and once again, I'm so honored to have been part of this revolution of the century, and I have found so much love and friendships with you all. I'm so thankful, and all that we are here, we're humbled and thankful for all of you. So God bless you all. Jesus is Lord. One love, and we'll see you on the next one. Blessings to you all.